Stories are the most powerful thing on earth. They are literally life and death. Wars are waged based on the story of who is the hero and who is the villain. You are the result of a story your parents told each other, the one-night stand, the soulmate, and friends who became so much more. Life and death. So wouldn't you like to understand them better, these stories? How Story Works, an elegant guide to the craft of storytelling by Lani and Rich, demystifies stories and helps you understand why you love what you love, why you hate what you hate, and why prologues are almost always a bad idea. How Story Works by Lani and Rich. Available on Amazon in ebook, audiobook, and paperback form. Get your copy today.
Welcome to Still Pretty, a Buffy the Vampire Slayer podcast from Chipperish Media. I'm story expert and mom thinking maybe she should have sent Buffy to a different school, Lani Diane Rich.
And I'm Noelle LaCroix, and I'm a scholar. I'm like a scholar. And we're here today to talk about Graduation Day Parts 1 and 2, the 21st and 22nd episodes of Season 3.
Graduation Day Part 1 aired on May 18th, 1999. Part 2 aired on July 13th, 1999, delayed for almost 2 months out of respect for the recent national trauma of the Columbine shooting. Both episodes were written and directed by Joss Whedon, with Jane Espenson as executive story editor and Doug Petrie as story editor.
As I'm sure you all know by now, Still Pretty is a fully spoiled Buffy the Vampire Slayer podcast for your listening pleasure and our discussing pleasure. Really, it just makes it easier on everyone if we're not spoiler sensitive and we've maybe seen the whole thing at some point recently or otherwise. Fire bad, tree pretty. Let's go on patrol. In Graduation Day Parts 1 and 2, Buffy and the Scoobies are preparing for Graduation Day, at which the mayor is going to deliver the commencement speech, and they're all likely to die. Faith kills a professor of volcanology for the mayor, and in return, he buys her a pretty pink dress that makes her feel wicked uncomfortable. Meanwhile, Willow is worried about her classmates, many of whom she kind of hated, but nothing makes you feel nostalgia like getting the hell out of Hellmouth High.
I mean, it's bad enough we have to fight the mayor. I don't want him eating Percy and the whole class. We have to find a spell or something to stop the ascension.
Then we will.
Buffy decides to investigate the professor that Faith killed, but before she can take off, Xander brings Anya in to tell her eyewitness story of an ascension she witnessed. She tells them that they've never seen a demon. All the demons they've dealt with have been human hybrids, like a Prius that runs on evil. But a real demon is different, bigger, and way more deadly. The mayor shows up in the middle of their meeting, and when he threatens Buffy, Giles stabs him through the heart with a fencing sword. The mayor pulls the sword out, unfazed.
So you want a graduation? You don't want to miss my commencement address. It's going to be one heck of a speech.
Buffy goes home and packs up Joyce's things, sending her out of town so Buffy can focus on taking down the mayor. Willow and Oz panic by having sex, which, as far as panic responses go, well played, Oz. Buffy goes to the professor's apartment to get information, and while she's there, Angel shows up. While they're arguing outside, Faith shoots an arrow into Angel.
Miss the heart.
Meant to.
With the information Buffy got from the professor, Wesley and Giles figure out that the mayor will only be impervious to harm until he ascends. After that, he can be killed. Angel collapses. The arrow was poisoned. He starts to run a fever. Willow gets to work and sends Xander out to get magical supplies. He runs into Anya in the hallway, who tries to get him to go away with her, but he refuses. Back at Angel's place, Buffy is caring for Angel when Wesley reports that the Watchers Council will not help, so Buffy quits. Willow figures out what the poison is. The only possible cure is draining the blood of a Slayer.
Angel needs to drain a Slayer, then I'll bring him one.
Buffy, if Angel drains Faith's blood, it'll kill her.
Not if she's already dead.
Buffy figures out where Faith is staying and goes there to find her. They fight. Buffy stabs Faith with the knife the mayor gave her, but Faith falls off the roof onto a passing truck, and Buffy can't bring her back to Angel for the cure. She leaves. The mayor shows up at Faith's apartment and panics.
Put everyone on it. Do it now. But sir, the Ascension... Fight them!
Angel's getting worse and hallucinating. Buffy returns and sends Oz and Willow away. Then she goes into Angel's room and tells him he has to drink her. He refuses, but she insists. She fights with him, forcing his inner vampire out, and puts his mouth to her neck. He drinks, and she passes out. He rushes her to the hospital and calls Giles. In a nearby room, the mayor has found Faith, and the doctor tells him it's unlikely she will ever regain consciousness. The mayor then finds Buffy in the next room and tries to smother her with his hand, but Angel pulls him away.
Murderous little fiend. Did you see what you did to my Faith?
I hadn't made plans to weep over that one.
Well, I'd get set for some weeping if I were you. I'd get set for a world of pain. Misery loves company, young man, and I'm looking to share that with you and your whore.
Giles shows up with the Scoobies and Angel tells them what happened. Angel is ashamed and they send him away. Meanwhile, Buffy has a dream of being in Faith's apartment, and Faith tells her that the mayor's still human and has human weakness. Buffy wakes up and goes over to Faith's bed, kisses her on the forehead, and goes out to find the Scoobies.
I'm ready. Ready for what? War.
At the school, the Scoobies plan for the Ascension, leaving every idea on the table, including attacking the mayor with hummus. Wesley shows up and offers his help. Meanwhile, the mayor plans for the Ascension, which will block out the sun, allowing for vampires to play. Xander and Willow go out into the school to recruit students into the fight, and Cordelia and Wesley share an awkward kiss in the library, discovering that there really is no chemistry between them. Buffy goes into Giles' office to talk to Angel.
So, are we sure that everyone's good with their
I'm
visions?
not gonna say goodbye. When we get through this, I'm just gonna go.
At graduation, the mayor comes in to give his speech, and actually gives the speech before the Ascension. True evil. The sun blots out and the day goes dark, and the mayor starts to turn into a giant snake. The plan begins. Xander and Angel command the troops of students, who all have weapons under their graduation gowns, to fight the mayor and the vampires. The mayor eats Snyder. Buffy uses Faith's bloody knife to get the mayor's attention, then runs to the library with him in chase. When he gets there, she jumps out the window where Giles waits with a plunger to set off the explosion.
Well, gosh.
The school blows up, taking the mayor with it. Buffy talks to Xander, who tells her that Angel made it through the fight. Giles comes up to congratulate her and gives her her diploma, which he fished out of the wreckage. He goes off to tend to Wesley, and Buffy turns and sees Angel watching her. They look at each other for a moment, then he turns around and walks away into the smoky haze. She goes over to Xander, Willow, Oz, and Cordelia, and they do a little post-battle processing.
Guys, take a moment to deal with this. We survived.
It was a hell of a battle.
Not the battle. High school.
All right, so Noelle, here we are, season finale for season 3. This has been quite a haul. Season 3 has been really, really fun and interesting. So how do you feel about the seasons as a whole, now that you've been through 3 of them?
The season finale for season 3, I think, is the best season finale of the show. Mm-hmm. Full stop. Full stop. Yeah. I think 3 is, for me anyway, where it's at. But what I love especially about the season 3 season finale is that it builds on seasons 1 and 2. Mm-hmm. So just thematically speaking, right, in terms of what we're exploring. So season 1 is all about the self. It's all season 1. We have 1. It's the self-mastery, mm-hmm. right? We even have the mm-hmm. master as our villain. Right. So, Buffy dies and comes back through the magic of friendship and being herself, really, and owning mm-hmm. herself as the Slayer. And that's where we are when season 1 wraps up. Season 2, of course, is the self plus the other. That's 2, mm-hmm. Angel and Buffy. And we wrap that up with Buffy having to stab Angel, which is so hard. It's so hard because we have dealt with this, this pair for the entirety of season 2. Season 3 is the self, the other, and the community. And that, I think, is why it feels so phenomenal to me in terms of a conclusion to the high school portion of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, you know, as a story that continues not just from episode to episode, but from season to season. So we have these expanding concentric rings of influence and power. And then, of course, we blow up the school and we reset everything for season 4, which really ends up being about the small friend group, you know, working together as kind of a traveling party of magical and mundane badasses. But for the
it becomes a different show.
Yeah, it really does. It really does. And you can almost see the, I don't want to say friction because that sounds too negative, but you can kind of see like, all right, what do we do now that high school is no longer a character in our story? But seasons 1, 2, and 3, I love the way they build on the Slayer, who she is, who her identity, you know, what her identity is, who she is, you know, in relationship to her companion, her partner, and then who she is in connection to her community, this high school community. It gives me big feelings, many, many big feelings.
Well, yeah, and it's really cool how this high school story, which a lot of high school stories are, I mean, is basically a coming of age story, right? And it starts all the way. And I love this idea of the self, then the self and the other, and then the self, the other, and expanding out into the community, right? And once Buffy understands herself as a leader in a community, this is also where she breaks free from the Watchers Council. Yes. I mean, you know, Giles gets fired from it. So that's the first part of that crack. But by the end, she just says, well, you know, I quit. So let's see who you're going to watch now that you don't have a Slayer. You know, she's realizing and recognizing her own power in that situation and coming to understand her own power, you know, which is a real big part of that coming of age, that process, you know, that she's kind of grown up. When we move through seasons 4 through 7, it is a different show, you know, because we've already achieved this coming of age story, you know. So what happens after that? What happens when you've come of age? What are the challenges that you're facing, and how do they work thematically throughout the run of the rest of Buffy? And I think that like, we have a couple of really the shakiest stuff that we have in Buffy comes post this anchor of the high school and of the coming of age story, you know?
For sure. And of course we've had, you know, season 3 is where we introduce Faith and this other Slayer and these ideas of multiple possibilities, like multiple trajectories for the Slayer and who she could become. And the Buffy Faith stuff is just real.
Oh my God.
So delicious, so crunchy, so salty, so good. I love it. I love it so much.
Great. Well, the whole season really is addressing duality in so many different ways. You know, we've got this Faith and Buffy, right? You know, two Slayers, right? In which at the beginning, like our whole central thesis of this show was one girl in all the world, right? That is the central thing about Buffy. And yet now there are two. Right.
Yeah.
So we have these. I mean, we've had that. We had that with Kendra too. But Kendra came in sort of as a, you know, as a side figure, you know, and then of course they killed her. And then we have Faith, but Faith is there as an actual, like, she's not just coming in as a bit player. She is a mirror put up against Buffy. So the central relationship of this season really is Faith and Buffy. And then we go to this kind of mirroring this duality in general. We have Wesley as a reflection on Giles. We have Doppelgangland with the two Willows. Mayor and Faith as a dark reflection of the Giles and Buffy relationship. So what we see so much in season 3 are these reflections, you know, these kind of foils. Everybody's got like a foil to who they are, you know, and it's really fun to kind of play with all those reflections because it ends up giving us more of an insight into all of those characters and all of those relationships, which I really, really love. One of the things, though, that I wanted to talk about with Faith and Buffy and that I really wanted to get your input on, because you know how I am about dream sequences, you know, all of it feels like Yeah, it feels like performative meaning in dream sequences for me generally, rather than actual meaning, I think that Buffy gets a pass. I think that the dream sequences in Buffy, because I talk about dream sequences in general, are kind of this cheap performative, look at my depth kind of thing, when there really isn't any actual depth there. I think that with the dream sequences, for the most part in Buffy, we end up getting a lot more in those that actually has real meaning, that can be mined for something, other than just seeming to be deep and to have deep meaning. It actually does. My skill set at pulling that meaning out of dream sequences, because dream sequences, I bounce off them so goddamn hard every time I see one. But some of the things, and I have to say, like, most of the insights about this are not mine. There's Faith says miles to go, right? Which is a reference to the Robert Frost poem Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening. And I haven't spent a whole lot of time tearing that apart and figuring out what that poem means with regard to Buffy. But this is the second reference. We have the first reference in The Prom. And I think there's another one out there somewhere. But for anybody who's really interested in that, Ian Martin at Passion of the Nerd actually does some extensive analysis on the significance of that poem within Buffy, and he's in the middle of his season 5 review now. He's starting on season 5, and he's pulling a lot of that in. So I'm not going to repeat what he said. I'm not going to talk, because that's his stuff. Go check him out, Passion of the Nerd on YouTube, and you can find him there. He's doing brilliant work with that. And I've also seen the reference to the Little Miss Muffet counting down from 730, right? Because 730 is the number of days in 2 years. And so I saw somebody saying, like, oh, and it's 2 years before dawn, but it's not 2 years before dawn shows up. It's like 13 months before dawn shows up now.
Right.
So all of this stuff I see there. There's the cat. There's all of these things in there. I am not skilled at pulling the meaning out of this sort of thing, but you are. So what I want to do is just hand this over to you and let you do the stuff that I'm not good at.
Well, it's funny. Like, for the most part, I do agree with you about dream sequences in fiction, because
yes,
the way dreams function, I mean, this is going to be super, super overly simplified, but basically dreams are our messages to ourselves. Our unconscious minds speaking to us in symbols that it hopes we can understand. I mean, this is...
Yes.
Again, super oversimplified. Also, I'm bringing my own bias to this. However, the problem with a fictionalized dream or a dream sequence is that it really is tempting to just do the whole, and then there was a clown on the roof, which was also a tennis court. And you're like, no, that doesn't, no, you're doing Dadaism now. You're not giving us symbols, which is really what we're looking at when we look at dreams. So I actually really like this coma dream. If for no other reason than, Buffy says, is this your mind or mine? And Faith says, hell if I know. Like, are they in the same headspace? Is this some sort of, Slayer coma intimacy that, like, is this connected to both of them being in this altered state of consciousness simultaneously, within a few feet of each other? Like, there's some Slayer magic going on there. But I do think that some of the symbols in this particular dream are really, really powerful, and really, really do add meaning to the story as a whole. So the cat, you mentioned the cat, which I love, because Faith doesn't have a cat. This is not, right. This isn't something from the world. But the cat, and this is from Teresa Chung's Element Encyclopedia of 20,000 Dreams. Quote, Jung saw cats in dreams as representing the hidden or secretive side of a person's nature. Cats often feature in dreams of women to represent the urge to care for someone. So we're at this difficult place with Buffy and Faith, because of course Buffy has had this plan to kill Faith and then bring her to Angel, and she's handcuffed them together while they're fighting, which I just have to jump back in time for a minute and give big love to our stunt performers in that scene.
Yeah.
That is just such a beautiful fight sequence, and I think that it really shows the relationship between the characters in a way that fights in fiction often don't. But, you know, this bit about the urge to care for someone, Buffy was going to feed Faith to Angel, but she still also loves Faith.
Yeah.
And Faith loves Buffy and seems to have this like odd admiration for her when Buffy stabs her in the gut. It's like, it's really, really brutal emotional stuff. And then here we have this secret hidden nature in the dream in the form of the cat, who of course flashes onto Faith in a coma. So is Faith the cat? Does the cat represent Buffy's desire to care for Faith after having put her in a coma? I mean, I don't know, but I love the kind of the dual symbolism there with the cat. And then 730, I have gotten on a big numerology kick lately, so everybody excuse me as I just like nerd out about numerology. But in the tarot, 7 is the Chariot, 3 is the Empress, and 0 is the Fool. And you can look up what all of those mean, but really, really simply, the Chariot is harnessing of power and resources. The Empress is about feminine openness and love, both as kind of the mother figure and the lover figure. And then the Fool is about new possibilities, about new beginnings and kind of endless possibilities. And I think all of those speak really strongly. All of those numerological archetypes speak really strongly to where we are with not just with Buffy and Faith, but with Buffy as she's looking forward to graduation day. And I don't mean looking forward in the excited about sense.
Right.
But 730 in law appears to be connected to mental illness, which again brings us back to, is this your mind or mine? And that question, you know, we've written off Faith. We the show have written off Faith as being crazy and kind of used that idea as a catch-all for why she is the way she is and why she's able to behave the way she behaves. But there's also this kind of undercurrent of knowledge that no, it's not just that we're just going to write her off as crazy. It's that this is, you know, Buffy could easily have gone this direction as well. And that Faith's, you know, the mental gymnastics that enable Faith to do the kinds of things she does are much more related to trauma and pain and grief than they are to, well, she's just crazy and doesn't give a fuck about anybody.
Yeah.
So I like the complicated nature of sanity. Like, I mean, the joke in Doppelgangland about, you know, Faith would never be on the cover of Sanity Fair, which is a great bit of writing, but also, yeah, like there's something about mental capabilities and like what happens to the mind as a result of grief. I mean, contemporary psychology will tell you that trauma reshapes the brain, that that it actually like causes physical changes in the brain. So, and I don't know where I'm going with this other than I love this mirroring of Buffy and Faith. I love them coming together in this dream space when they've been so at odds, and they are peaceful in this unconscious space. Faith is turning everything over to Buffy. This is where Buffy learns that the mayor is human with human weakness, and ultimately it's his humanity that's going to take him down, which is so deep and so crunchy. And then Faith says to Buffy, Buffy asks about all of the boxes that are, everywhere. It looks like Faith is packing, which is really, really kind of heartrending when you think about the possibility that she's going to die in this hospital bed. There's this at this point, the show has set us up to believe that Faith is gone. We're never going to see her again. She's never going to regain consciousness. So that we're perhaps in Faith's mind, and Buffy is a visitor there, and Faith tells her to take what you need. And it's heartbreaking. It just gets me. Faith knows, or at least believes, in this unconscious mind space that she's going to die. And she asks Buffy to take, from her the things that serve her and leave the rest. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. And I could get super emotional about it and probably talk about it for another 3 hours. But like the love story, the Faith Buffy love story that's never really given, I think, the time and attention that it deserves because there are 900 other things going on in season 3. Is really, as soon as I start to scratch the surface of it, it's just heartrending and it gets me in all of my feelings. So that's how I feel about the dream. It gives me big feelings. And then, of course, Faith in dream space is what brings Buffy back. So there's almost this element of sacrifice of life energy to bring Buffy back to consciousness, because they're both comatose when this happens. And then Buffy walks over to Faith's hospital bed and kisses her on the forehead, which is, of course, what Faith does to Buffy before booking it out of Shay Angel, when she says, you're gonna get there someday, or whatever it is she says.
You're not ready. You're not ready to kill me yet.
Yes. And now Buffy's ready. Oh,
I know. Well, and then Faith says during the fight, "You killed me."
Yeah.
So it's really interesting. And this also, there's this point where they're fighting and she says, "Give us a kiss."
Oh yeah.
Right. Faith says that to Buffy. And then Buffy kisses Faith on the forehead, replicating that, you're not ready yet. Kiss on the forehead. You've killed me. Kiss on the forehead.
Yeah.
There is a real love story between Buffy and Faith. And I think that, we've talked a lot about kind of like these, these gay undertones to this relationship, the sexual undertones between the
gay
in the
highlights.
relationship.
It's not even gay undertones. It's like right out there.
But, I mean, the thing is that, like, I think, and of course, death of the author, doesn't matter if you see it, it's there, whether the author intended it or not. But I mean, like, I think that, like, when they were writing it, my understanding is that they didn't even see what they were putting in there, that it was just happening, that this Buffy and Faith momentum is something that was almost bigger than even the people creating it, But the thing is that, like, it's so clear that there is a real, like, love and affection, and whether or not it's something that would be expressed in a sexual way doesn't undermine, like, the love story that is here. And it is so incredibly complex, especially because it is they are reflections of each other, that they are kind of, they're both slayers, one girl in all the world. They're two identities sort of fighting for one space, and Faith being in a coma takes her, for all intents and purposes, out of that space, makes Buffy once again the only slayer, right? So she has to go and sacrifice herself and make Angel drink from her. But also, like, if Buffy's plan had worked, if she had stabbed Faith, if she had brought Faith to Angel, I don't think she would have been able to do it. I think in the end, she still would have chosen to have Angel feed from her. I mean, she was angry with Faith. She was upset with Faith. Faith shot Angel. Faith, basically is killing Angel. But I don't know that Buffy would have been able to do it. The moment that Buffy stabs her with the knife, it's like she has this moment of realization. In that moment, I don't think she would have brought Faith to Angel. I think she would have brought Faith to the hospital.
Yeah. Well, I think
You
it's
know?
even before. I think that moment happens even before she stabs Faith. When she pulls out the knife and Faith says, "That's mine." Buffy says, "You're about to get it back." Her voice breaks. She has to do what she's about to do. But as soon as Buffy sees Faith see what she's going to do, she doesn't want to do it anymore. It's like that you can hear it in the performance. It's this last minute, like, oh shit, I changed my mind. So I think you're absolutely right that even if she had, if they'd stayed handcuffed together and Buffy had, maybe knocked Faith unconscious or stabbed her and held on to her and taken her to Angel, I'm not sure. Well, first of all, I'm not sure she would have been able to take her to Angel. I think she probably would have looked at her, bleeding and taken her to the hospital. But even if she had taken her to Angel, I don't think she would have been able to go through with her plan.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think she would have been able to do it. I think she still would have made Angel feed off of her.
Because they love each other.
Which is interesting. Yes, they do. And because they are they're so connected in a way that nobody else, they can understand each other in a way that nobody else can understand either one of them. And the relationship between these two is so fascinating and so layered and so complex that when we talk about it in terms of sexuality, it almost feels like that's part of it. And I feel like or at least at the time, the slavish dedication to heteronormativity sort of muted things that they could have done with that part of that story, with that part of that relationship, and as long as they didn't tell it in a way, that was a salacious, look, we've got girls kissing, isn't it hot? Like that shit I hate. But actually exploring the space for this kind of love between these characters, I think is really interesting and really fun. And it's something that Buffy and Faith, it's almost like loving each other is a form of self-love too. That accepting themselves, that this is just a part of who they are, and they can no longer choose whether or not they love each other. Then they got to choose whether or not they were a slayer. Right. It is just part of who they are. So I like that we don't go into this whole, making a big deal out of the, the sexuality space where they are on the Kinsey scale. And what does this mean? And is Buffy gay? And is Faith gay? Like, that's not the important question. Like, the important thing here is this essential love story between these two characters. And the fact that it's a same-sex love story isn't as important as the fact that it is a love story between these two people, between these two characters. That's what makes it so good and so fascinating. And so I feel like we got robbed of that a little bit by the time in which this story was being told. Also a time in which if it was two girls kissing, that would have been the big deal rather than the fact that it was Buffy and Faith, which is actually what matters about this,
But it's very, very, very gay without being overt most of the time, although
without the fact that it's same sex being the biggest part of it.
I
mean, it's not the biggest part of it. It's just that they happen to be both girls, but like, it's bigger and better than just that. But that's something that we would focus on so much because, oh my God, girls kissing,
and we just can't handle that. But it's interesting that their relationship is so erotically charged because their fighting has always been kind of sexual. Like there's from their first fight where they're about to kick the shit out of each other. It's flirtation right up until it's you think you can take me. It's this very like
it's a dance.
It's fantastic. And during this last fight, I mean, Faith even taunts Buffy about the possibility of getting tired. She says, "I'm just starting to feel it." So there is that, and we've established this, over and over and over again, that fighting, slaying, violence is sexual for Faith.
Yeah.
And Faith really, really wants to bond with Buffy over that. I mean, more, I think, than Buffy connects with Faith, Faith connects with Buffy. Because Faith sees this opportunity to be seen and known and loved for who she is and what she is. And Buffy, I think in some ways, is just not ready to go there because Buffy is still trying to sort out what is the right thing to do, what is the best thing to do, and acknowledging the ways in which she is like Faith is scary. And it's, I mean, it's a beautiful dance of a relationship. The whole thing. It's definitely a love story. It's definitely erotically charged. I wish we had gotten more of an overt, lesbian storyline with these two, but I think that you can see it as a really beautiful, really complex, girl, slayer for slayer love story.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and we do, we get a love story, so I mean, I'm happy with that. I do wish that that those restrictions were not on this story, because I think it could have been even more interesting, more complex, and more powerful, without making a big deal about it being same sex. At that point, we couldn't not make a big deal out of it, but it really is. It's about two people who love each other.
Yeah.
And whatever gender they happen to identify as is really kind of immaterial, because it's about who they are as humans, and the fact that they can connect with each other sexually as well, is a nice addition of complexity to that relationship, which would have been really nice to see. We didn't get it, but we can still read. We can read lots of it in there. So it's readable.
We get some great queer relationship later on with Willow and Tara that, of course, we'll dive into more when we actually get there. But in terms of that, it's not such a big deal that both of these people are women and they're in love and they are sleeping together. The show fucks up in a lot of ways, but it does a great job in a lot of ways too.
Yes.
But speaking of sexual connection, Buffy and Angel.
Yes.
Whoa. Whoa.
You know what's so funny is that all the Buffy and Angel stuff has been generally working for me, and I really like it. This, I was like, it's the least interesting to me for some reason. And I don't know if it's because, we had the breakup, we had the culmination of this relationship in the prom. So this feels like, okay, we're done here, but at the same time, it's, I mean, I get it. I get the appeal of it, and it's powerful, and she's sacrificing herself for him, and he's feeding off of her and all of this kind of stuff. But what's funny is that for most of Buffy and Angel, you've been like, meh, and I've been like, no, totally into it. And now we have a little bit of a reversal on that.
Yep. I'm so into it. I'm so not into the coupley stuff. The way they fight before he's shot through the not heart with a poison arrow. I'm like, oh, come on. Seriously? We're going to bicker like this? And it's just, I mean, it's fuel to have them standing there having this argument so Faith can shoot Angel. I get it. Do you want to hear the story or not? But when he feeds on her, when she makes him feed on her, I'm like, oh, it can't be all it's so good. It's so good. It's so dark and so twisted, and it gives me pants feelings, I have to say. It really works for me. Bringing that violent vampire slayer / vampire love story to this weird, twisted, sexual, violent culmination in that moment. I'm here for it. So here for it.
See, I'm here for the Buffy and Angel love story. And the sexy stuff is whatever. But when it's Buffy and Spike, though, all of that kind of stuff, like
all the
that dark
sex
twisty
you're here
stuff.
for.
I'm there for it. Yeah, I think because Buffy and Spike and Buffy and Angel are just different, but Buffy and Angel are treated as this epic one true love. This is everything, you know, kind of thing. Buffy and Spike, at least for Buffy, and I think a lot for Spike too, because his ability to love is obviously twisted because of his, you know, lack of a soul. His ability to have that like deep down love along with it, you know, makes the sex like hotter, you know. It's great. Anyway. So yeah, it's funny because for Buffy and Angel, it is the heartfelt stuff. Like when they're fighting in the street, I felt that, you know. I was like, she can't see him, and when he drops, he gets mad because he doesn't get mad that often, you know. He gets mad, he drops the box, and he's like, whatever then, you know, and starts storming off. You know, I was like, oh, you know, because I felt it. And then all this stuff with the like, you know, it's the killer of the dead poison, and then you know he's got to drink the blood of a slayer in order to survive, and yada yada, and all this. I'm like, okay, fine, let's just, you know, whatever. So it's so funny how the things that work for me don't work for you, and vice versa. But every now and again, stuff works for both of us, and I'm hoping that Giles meets that, because oh my god, Giles stabbing the mayor through the heart with the fencing sword when he threatens Buffy. Immediately, he's sitting there with the mayor just taunting him in his face, and the second he says, "I'll eat her," Oh my god. I love that response. I love that. And oh my god, this is Dad Giles in a sweater. This is our first sweater Giles.
I was going to ask
you. Our first instance of sweater Giles.
I was going to ask you if this counted as sweater Giles.
Well, okay, Sweater Giles, in the full context of Sweater Giles, is season 4 Giles, depressed and unemployed, right? With nothing to do all the time. So that's Sweater Giles. But here he is he's wearing a sweater to work. Now, here we've seen Giles, right? In the beginning, season 1, we have the evolution of Giles through his wardrobe. Season 1, it's a 3-piece tweed suit every goddamn day in the middle of California.
Southern California, where it is 190 degrees in October.
I hope that library is seriously air conditioned. So here he is with that. The only time we really see him, like we see him in the Dark Age when he's, you know, having a lost weekend with the whiskey because his demon friends are back, that kind of thing. We see him at home, you know, wearing less formal attire. We saw him less formal, of course, in Band Candy, like that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. For the most part, though, he's 3-piece tweed suit guy in like season 1. Season 2, I believe he loses the vest, but he's still got the jacket and the, you know, the whole and the tie and all that kind of stuff.
Suspenders are happening. There's a whole
Yes. And now we've moved on. Since he's left the Watchers Council, it's usually just the shirt and the tie, sometimes the shirt with suspenders, you know, but he's not wearing the jacket anymore. And now he is in the school in a sweater, which, by the way, looks great.
A sweater fencing with Wesley during school hours because it is the last week of school after finals and nobody can be bothered to do anything.
And nobody cares. It is senioritis everywhere. It is so great.
Wonderful.
I love Dad Giles in a sweater. He's still like, and Anthony Stewart Head can rock anything. Like he rocked the tweed. You know, I'm not a big fan of tweed, but I got to tell you, now I kind of like the tweed.
Yeah. I mean, and Giles, I think Giles fencing with Wesley in the library might be my favorite Giles. Second only to Band Candy Giles.
One-handed. He's not even trying.
Oh, he is fencing. Okay. I love this so much. Wesley, you know, is like, he's working on his form and he's fencing, you know, he's beautifully and it's all this elegant. Giles is standing there, cannot be bothered, is fencing left-handed and reading the newspaper with his right. Like he's just, it's like this. And I don't think Giles is left-handed. I think this is a Princess Bride moment of, you know.
I think so.
Handicapping myself so that the fight is fun. Because you know, he would destroy Wesley. He would absolutely destroy him. And then
he totally would.
And it's such a great excuse for there to be a weapon right there when the mayor comes in and is taunting everyone. Because, I mean, They might have weapons on the table, but I love the idea that this is just like a fun game, sport. They're passing the time, fencing in the library.
Yeah.
But then the mayor shows up and Giles is going to fucking stab him through the heart. Like, it doesn't even... And he turns so quickly because, of course, the mayor has turned so quickly. We'll get to the mayor in a minute, but then, the mayor turns, his voice drops, I'm going to eat her. And Giles loses it. It's so great.
Oh my
Papa
God.
Bear.
Yeah, in that moment,
yeah,
this guy who can maintain his cool through pretty much anything, that sets him off, right? And we see that reflection later in the mayor with his response to Faith. Same thing. So I absolutely love that we've got both those sides of that in this episode. And it's just, and then Giles fishing out her diploma from the wreckage after the fight, and just Giles, everything Giles. I love him. I love this relationship. I love how proud he is of her. I love how much she means him. All of that to me, it warms my heart. I had so much fun with Giles.
He really has become the father of the group in this beautiful, seamless transition from being this point of conflict for Buffy, because of course he's so stuffy in season 1, and he follows the rules and she doesn't, and he speaks proper English and she doesn't. It's this whole thing, this whole ridiculous contrast that's really, on the surface of it, kind of predictable. But as they work together and they grow and appreciate each other and they become this family, Giles and the Scoobies, apparently, by the way, apparently season finales make me as nostalgic as Graduation makes Willow, because I'm like, everybody, like at the very end, Giles and Xander are trading places, essentially talking to Buffy. And Giles, very quietly on the soundtrack, you hear him say, "Good job," to Xander. Yeah. And I'm like, Dad Giles is like
Dad
Giles is handing out the compliments to the kids who did a good job, because they really did do a very good job, and he's so proud of them. And I love it.
I know.
I love it.
It's so sweet. But he's going off too to check on Wesley, who of course is a huge mess in this whole thing.
Poor Wesley.
I know. But I love in this episode though that we have Wesley becoming a useful member of the team, right?
Yes.
He's no longer as much the butt of every joke as he was in the beginning, when he's there to help, figure everything out. When Angel first gets poisoned, and he's like, "I'll go check it out with the council, and I'll try to get information." And Buffy appreciates that from him, and then of course, like, he gets, he goes to the council says no, and Buffy quits, leaving him with nothing, because without a Slayer, what is the Watcher going to do? So Wesley for me was so fun. And then when he comes in at the end and he's like, "I just want to be of help if I can," which is so sweet. And then he's packing up the books. This is the thing too, like, the library is going to get destroyed, and of course we've got this whole battle to plan, but what are we doing? We're getting the books out.
Yeah, we're going to save the books.
Safe.
We're going to save the books.
I love that. Save the books.
No text left behind.
And then of course, right, no text left behind. This beautiful, awkward, terrible, no chemistry kiss between Cordelia and Wesley is one of my favorite things in this episode. It's so cute.
It's so good. The performance is so spot on. They are so awkward. They're so awkward after building up all of this tension, and there's all of this, oh my God, like, Wesley and Cordelia, and but that's not appropriate, she's a student, and all of this, all of this conflict, and then they're alone and they kiss, and oh no. But the arms, neither of them knows what to do with their arms. It's wonderful. It's like, I want to touch this person, I want to connect with them, but none of this is working. It's so funny.
I know.
And I love that conclusion to the Wesley Cordelia infatuation.
I do too.
It's basically the best answer narratively. Yes. I think it's really the only answer, but oh God, poor Wesley though. Like, he is having a hard couple of days. I mean, obviously Buffy is having the hardest couple of days, but dude is having a hard couple of days. So you talked about, his Slayer quits. The council won't help him out. His Slayer quits. He's got nothing to do except pack up books in the library that they're going to blow up. And he doesn't even get like a cool action-y job to do. And then we're getting ready. Like, we're going to fight. He's willing. He's like, join the group. He's so into it.
Yes.
And then, he's with Group Angel, right? Like they're an Angel comes in and they're getting ready to fight. And Angel's like, pow, boom, pow, boom, combat, combat, combat. And Wesley comes in and drops like a stone. He gets he's like an elbow to the side of the head and he is down. He just drops out of frame. If you blink, you miss it. I'm just like, oh, Wesley. It's so perfect. It's so perfect.
I love that. Oh, Jesus. I'm sorry. Something's making a noise outside of my office.
Is it the kids?
Oh, they're in Arizona. It's probably a fucking cat or something. Hang on. Oh, you gotta be kidding me.
What's going on?
Are you Lani, Diane, Rich?
Is that Clive?
Hey, that's my microphone.
Chipperish Media makes all the podcasts you love free and ad-free. Podcasts about Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Angel the Series, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, how story works, explosive inspiration, and Star Wars. Visit patreon.com/chipperish to donate $1 a month to whatever you can afford to keep Chipperish Media going, producing great podcasts about great stories. We need to talk.
We don't need to do anything. You need to get out of my house.
She's going to kill me.
I'm not going to kill you.
Not you. Bryony Wheaton. That Harridan has been undermining me for months, and now she's trying to have me killed.
Harridan? Really? You know that's not a word actual people use, right?
Are you going to critique my diction, or are you going to listen to me?
If I call 911 from Seattle, can I send them to your house in New York? How does 911 work?
You got 30 seconds.
No, he doesn't.
The Watchers Council is real. All of this is real. But there are exponentially more Watchers than there are Slayers, which can make for some rather tense political situations. Bryony got upset with me because I spoke over her in a couple of meetings and apparently mansplained some things to her, and now she's trying to have me killed.
Oh my God. Are you kidding me with this?
Clive? Jesus Christ. What you have to say is not automatically more important than what a woman has to say just because it's important to you.
Fine. Lesson learned. #YesAllMen. My point is I think that trying to have me killed may be a bit of an overreaction.
Oh, so what? Now she's being irrational? Emotional?
No, she's trying to have me killed.
Yeah, I'm Team Bryony.
She won't come here. We've been using Chipperish Media to send our messages to a person of importance who listens to your shows. As long as I'm with one of you, I'm safe.
Fine.
What?
Look, Clive, I'm on a tight schedule. I have 2 podcasts to record today. I don't have time for this right now.
Lani.
You can sit in the corner there and think about what you've done.
Lani.
Be quiet, and when I'm done recording, I will deal with you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Lani.
Yeah?
You're letting him stay?
I don't know. He seems harmless. And he's kind of cute and all disheveled and panicked and wearing tweed. He's kind of a Giles.
Oh, God, no.
I have a weakness for British men.
Yeah, that's a weakness that has served nobody well.
All right, let's just finish this up and I'll deal with that later.
You mean the police will deal with it later, right?
I'll handle it. Don't worry. He's sitting in the corner of my office. He's playing with my iPad. It's fine.
I guess. If you're sure.
Yeah, we got to get this done. Okay, so where were we? Oh, we were talking about Wesley and this battle, which honestly is so great. I mean, typically for me, like the fighting is usually the least interesting part for me. I don't tend to care for that. I can appreciate the athleticism of the dance, the choreography, and I think that some fights, like the fight with Faith and Buffy on the terrace there, and the handcuffs and all that stuff, that's, sometimes it can be really cool. A lot of times it's punch, punch, kick, kick, boom, and you're gone. And I don't care, but this, the students pulling the weapons out from their graduation gowns, Xander's commanding the troops, Angel's pulling in the flank, Cordy stakes a vampire.
Harmony gets bit.
Oh my God, I know, she gets to stake a vampire. It's so great. There's something I love how empowering that whole sequence is. Here are these kids, with graduation gowns, which, by the way, are flattering on no one, but they can definitely hide a lot of weaponry. So there is that. It's so cool and fun. And as far as like final battle scenes go, this is one of my favorites.
Oh, yeah. This is, hands down, my favorite season finale of the whole series. Because it's that large group of people all doing something together.
All coming together.
It's gorgeous. And I think the reason I've been thinking about the fight sequences and like why sometimes they work and sometimes they don't. And I think, part of that is, does this serve a purpose narratively? Right? Or is it just like, oh, we're going to pause the story right now and Buffy's going to fight some vampires in the graveyard. So that's one thing. If we can use the fight to advance the story, which of course is what we're doing here because it's the final battle, that helps. But also, usually you have one fight choreographer on set and you have one stunt coordinator on set, and sometimes they're the same person. So, so everybody just kind of fights the same. And what I love about this huge battle is that we have a bunch of folks who shouldn't know how to fight, and they don't. A big part of the strategy is just bodies. We're all just going to charge at this group of vampires all at the same time. And that's what works, that they are coming together, that they're all there at the same time in the same place with some pretty badass weaponry. I mean, Larry with the flamethrower. And then
I like it.
And then of course, I mean, R.I.P. Larry. I'm so sad.
I know.
That
Larry dies.
Larry dies.
And then Harmony gets bit. And of course, Harmony getting bit is this just really quick cutaway moment. And in that moment, you don't know what that means. Like, what that moment is going to start in the run.
I was so excited when Harmony got bit. I'm just like,
Vampire Harmony is one of my favorite things ever. Vampire Harmony. Oh my God.
I am so gonna bite you.
I'm so gonna bite you. Vampire Harmony delights me in ways that are not natural. I love her so much. Every time she shows up, it's like my favorite thing. It always makes me happy when she shows up later in Buffy, when she shows up in Angel, the series. I love all of it. So knowing that this is the moment when I see Harmony get bit, that this is the moment that creates all of that amazing stuff that I am going to love when we get there. I absolutely love that. I am very sad that Larry bites it, so to speak, in this. Because I loved Larry and I loved Larry's arc throughout the whole thing. But, we had to lose something, right? You have to lose somebody.
We have to kill our gay characters.
God damn it. Kill your gays. That's right. Jesus.
Oh, man. Jonathan and Larry with the explosives in the shopping cart. I'm just like,
yes.
What?
I know. It's so great. All of it is so fun, and I just love the empowerment of the battle. I love that it's all these kids who have been getting picked off one by one that are like, not today, right? It's really, really great. It's really, really great.
And then of course we zoom in on Buffy and the Mayor. That piece gets, we get to do the big group fight, everybody coming together, and then we do the personal, and it's so perfect. I love it so much.
I know. And I mean, of course, bringing him into the library, right? All the explosives in the library. She jumps out the window. And I'm thinking, okay, they knew she was going to jump out the window. They couldn't have left the window open for her, knowing that was the plan. That she was going to go through, whatever.
No, man. I mean, you need a
job it
dramatic
was to
glass
open the window.
Breaking.
You need the dramatic glass breaking, her landing on the ground
break
next
through
to
the glass. For old time's sake.
And then Giles there with the plunger, and then of course we have the oh gosh, from the mayor snake, which is I don't know, it's one of those controversial moments. A lot of people really, really don't like that. I think it's kind of cute.
Yeah, I could go either way, honestly. It was like, I mean, Mayor Snakekin's the first. I like that he's still himself, kind of under the snaky exterior. But whatever. I mean, it's the show can't take itself too seriously. Yeah,
that's true. It's goofy. It does bring us back to some of the stuff that we like the most about the mayor, is that even when he's monstrous, he's still got this very 1950s, kind of Leave It to Beaver sort of vibe to him, So bringing that back in is kind of funny. But also, like, that's a big moment, and he is filled with fury because of Faith, you know?
Yeah.
So that response doesn't seem, I think, emotionally genuine to the moment. So it's I don't know. It's tough. Like, on the one hand, it's kind of funny, you know, it's kind of cute. And on the other hand, it sort of undercuts that powerful heartbreak fury of a father who has lost his daughter, right? You know, and it's going after the girl who took her. So all of it, I don't know. It's one of those things I appreciate what it is and what it's trying to do. And there is kind of a cuteness in that moment. The greater context of it, I think it undercuts some of the power of that moment, you know? So I don't know. I can go either way with that. One of the things, though, that I really found interesting, it's very, very quick. We get like one scene with Joyce, right? And Buffy is sending Joyce out of town. And this, I think, is when the switch happens. Buffy becomes mom and Joyce becomes child, you know? And she's packing everything up and she's sending Joyce away. And she's saying, if you stay here, then you're going to get killed. And then Buffy has this moment where she says, I wish that I could be a lot of things for you. Right. Which is not something that a child, I think a child feels that with their parents, but they usually don't express it like that. You know, parents, I think, are more likely to feel that for their kids. There are things that I wish I could be. I just had this conversation before we started, you know, doing the podcast with my kid because I'm ordering pizza for dinner tonight. So I wish I could be a mom who cooks, but I'm just not a mom who cooks. Like, that's it, you know? So it's funny to see kind of that swap in those roles. And this is where Buffy really is the mom, you know, and Joyce is just like, okay, mom, if you say I have to leave, I guess I gotta go, you know?
Yeah. Well, and Buffy is everyone's mother in a lot of ways. I mean, everyone, perhaps with the exception of Giles. And Buffy mothering her mother is the graduation cap on this idea of Buffy, because Buffy's the one who doesn't have a choice. Yeah. Buffy's the one who doesn't have a choice but to be responsible. And we've seen this over and over and over again. And here she spells it out for her mother, and she is the mother in that scene. And it's, I mean, and that is yet another turning point, because that's the Buffy that we see moving forward. I mean, with a few exceptions here and there, but she does just continue to grow into that kind of everyone's mom figure in a lot of ways. Which is what happens with some of us when we have to grow up really, really fast.
When you have to grow up really, really fast. And speaking of growing up, we have a huge moment for Oz and Willow.
Yay!
Right? I kind of love that Oz panics with sex. I think that as far as panics go, that is probably one of the best ways to do it.
Yep.
It's so sweet. And again, it's the taciturn man, right? You know, Willow's like, I'm here, I'm freaking out, you're acting like everything's fine, can't you just panic? And he kisses her and he says, I'm panicking.
Yeah, it's so wonderful. I love that Willow is talking about, you know, the fear and the anxiety is something that people can share. And Oz has a better idea for something that people can share. I'm like, yes, this is great. This is great. And it's a great solution to a really tense situation.
I think that's a good idea. If the world is ending, just you know, have sex.
And it shuts down, I mean, just from a biological standpoint, it shuts down that whole fear, tension, pain cycle. If you can get into that cycle, you know, you can feel a lot better really fast. And one of the best ways to do that is with oxytocin. So everybody's favorite hormone. Well, not everybody's. Not everybody's. Too much oxytocin makes some people depressed. Anyway.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, which is why some people who give birth and choose to, you know, try to breastfeed will find that breastfeeding boosts their oxytocin too much and it makes them depressed.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there's all kinds of science here. If anybody wants to geek out with me about the science of reproduction, I'm happy to do that with you. Not really relevant to Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Allowed on Twitter.
Exactly. Or Instagram, whatever.
Or Instagram, wherever you find her.
Wherever you find me online. But yes, that, it's sweet and it's funny and it's very, very Oz to
It is very
bring
Oz. He's a man of
sex
action.
into this moment. And that's like a legit great solution to freaking out.
It is. I actually really like it.
If sex is something you are interested in engaging with, it's a great way to reset your mood. And I love that and I love that that's what happens. I love the happy calm that follows the Willow Oz, couple sexual debut. It's lovely. It's lovely.
It is. It's very sweet. Although we do get this moment that usually bugs me. In this context, it doesn't quite bother me as much, but I feel different. I'm a girl and I've been penetrated by a boy. And so now I'm suddenly different because we treat like virginity, as though, like, first of all, the only way you can lose your virginity is penis and vagina.
Yes.
Like, that's it. Everything else you do, still a virgin. Like, that idea is ridiculous. Virginity is a complete social construct. It's not a thing, and then always afterward, the women are different. Like, after Buffy had sex and Joyce was like, you look different, all of that drives me crazy because it's always on the woman. The woman is suddenly different, and it's visible from space. Like, all of that kind of stuff drives me crazy. But the thing is that Oz, who has had sex before, right, says, yes, everything is different. And so I think it is more that their relationship has changed, because of this experience that they had together. Right. And I think that is, so I'm kind of going to give it a pass, but it's one of those things, having a girl who has just had like one form of sex, who could have had a million different other forms of sex a million times before that, right? Having a girl say, oh, I'm different now. Like, it's such a ridiculous idea.
I headcanon that as she is awash with happy cuddle hormones and just she feels different in the sense that she feels way better now. And also this is someone that she loves and wants to connect with, and they have connected in this very specific way, and she's feeling like good different about that. That's my headcanon on it, because
and I accept that. Like, that's okay. If it wasn't for the millions of ways in which we do that shit with women about virginity all over the place, this wouldn't bother me at all. I would be fine with it.
Totally. And they are so sweet then, continuing to like touch and kiss and make out, and they're on angel watch, but they take time to make out, and Willow says that she feels guilty because everything is going to hell, but she's like she's feeling so much closer to this man that she loves, and I'm just here I go with the feelings again. But and then of course Buffy comes in and they like fling themselves apart. We were just watching. He's fine. He's she's because she's still Willow. She's still Willow, best friend on the job, even though she's having this this new and wonderful experience with her sweetheart.
Yeah.
I love it.
No, it's very nice. I love it too. So Faith and the Mayor, we get this relationship with the two of them. Right in the beginning, when he's giving her that pink dress, right? Which is not who she is.
At all.
And he says, nobody knows what you are, not even you, little Miss Seen It All, right? That is okay. I think there's two ways to read this. One, that he's trying to make her into something more like himself, more of that 1950s, kind of Leave It to Beaver kind of thing, trying to make her into something that she is not. Two, that he sees in her something that she doesn't see, that is actually a part of who she actually is. What do you think about that?
Their relationship is so complex from the moment it begins, and it just continues to become complex as we move through the season finale. I have a lot of thoughts about what he's doing there with her. I think that first, I think he really does love her in his own weird way. In the same way that Faith is Buffy's connection to this kind of darker, more rebellious side that she might not engage with otherwise. I think that Faith is the mayor's connection to his humanity in a way that he might not engage with otherwise. So there's that. But at the same time, he is so patriarchal in several senses of the word. I mean, putting her in this dress that is clearly not her, and insisting that, you know, the boys who survive the ascension will be lining up to ask her out. It's still very much about her sexual capital and her desirability within the sort of male gaze space. But he does want to care for her. It seems to me that he does want to highlight this thing that he appreciates about her, which is that sweetness, that devotion. Because she is incredibly loyal. I mean, he makes the joke about the dog, and we talked about that being more Faith than Buffy. But that's something that he loves about her. He loves that she is so devoted to him and so sweet in a weird way. You know, going out of her way to, you know, murder volcanologists, for example. Like, just... It is, again, like such a complex relationship. And he's not shy about telling her who she is and what she is, that she is his daughter. And he does own her in these ways. But he also, you know, he says to her when she's in a coma in the hospital, he says, this is your day. Like, it's a weird... It's some weird patriarchal nonsense, but there's also that undercurrent of like real connection, which of course makes him interesting as a villain. He's not just a mustache twirling villain. He's got this heart and this weakness. I mean, he's a family man.
Right.
He told us right up front. But he's, I mean... Oh God, the
mayor. I mean, the mayor. Like, here we are at the end of this you know, villain arc for him, right? And what I love is that, like, we've had a lot of fun with the mayor in this, you know, G shucks 1950s vibe versus, like, you know, encompassed in this evil, I'm going to eat everybody and become a giant snake demon, you know, and ascend and all of this kind of stuff. So we've had fun with that kind of general, you know, juxtaposition of these contrasting ideas for him. But what makes the mayor most interesting is his love for Faith, like how much he loves her, to the point where his love for Faith ends up being the weakness that undoes him in the end. But, you know, we see him in the hospital, you know, over her, grieving, goes to Buffy, tries to kill Buffy, you know, then shouts at Angel. He's losing it. He's losing his control and he's losing his composure, which is something that we don't see in the mayor. Very rarely does he actually get upset, you know, but this has him shook. And the fact that, you know, with this character who has, you know, such incredible evil that he's actually going to make people sit through an entire commencement speech when he's just going to kill them anyway, which is true evil. That even with all that evil, you know, what it is about him that makes him most compelling, most interesting is the human love, you know, are these qualities that we would consider positive and good. Even though it comes definitely, you know, there's a darkness and a twistiness involved in anything with the mayor, you know. But it's really interesting. And also, like, you know, he talked briefly about his wife, you know, Edna May, who he stayed with until she died. Like, he was faithful to her, you know, and stayed with her through that whole thing. Like, Yeah.
And he's a widower.
Yeah.
He's wearing his wedding ring. When we see his hand manipulating Buffy's head in the hospital, which is, like, for my money, one of the most chilling aspects of the series so far. But he's got his wedding ring on. He really is that family man. And it's this love for, I mean, presumably his wife and now for Faith that connect him to humanity, even when he is Mayor Snakekins the First. Like, that is a fascinating detail about the demon. Like, that the demon... So, I mean, Anya tells us lots of lovely information about demons and how they work. But what's fascinating to me is the human becomes pure demon, and that's what makes him so terrifying at the end. Except that he still has that human...
He has the human soul. He has the human heart. Yeah.
It's very interesting. Very, very interesting. And of course, you know, using his human weakness and his as the thing that would destroy the demon feels very on brand somehow. Like, it feels very I don't know. Just right on, narratively speaking. I mean, it's really interesting at the beginning of part 2, when we move from Buffy leaving the roof to the mayor reflecting on Faith and what must have happened. You know, she doesn't like to be cooped up. He knows all about her. She's a good girl, all of these things. We end the scene with the mayor convincing himself that she'll be all right. And he repeats it 3 times like a mantra. And it's both chilling and heartbreaking.
Which is beautiful.
And that, I mean, I think that is one of the reasons, at least for me, why the mayor is possibly the greatest villain of the series. I mean, he's truly a fantastic villain for, you know, all the reasons that we've talked about. But right now, you know, in 2019, he feels very contemporary in a lot of ways. When he's invulnerable and he is strutting around the school and just taunting everyone, he is so sure of himself. I mean, he always is. But in those moments when he walks into the library and he's just spelling it out for all of them and he knows nothing can hurt him, it's...
Oh, God. When he says, I'm going to eat her to Giles.
Yeah.
Oh,
and then turns right around. I love his reaction. Whoa!
Yeah.
Like, he's offended. He has said this to Giles.
Yeah.
And then is offended when Giles stabs him through the heart with a foil. Whatever. But that's such an evil person thing to do. Like, it's so like, well, why are you getting upset? You know? Like, it's so great that he is both pure evil and also has this sense of what is respectable and appropriate. Like, he tells Giles not in front of the kids. He tells his vampire posse to watch the swearing. Like, what? But also that feels so correct, and it feels so reflective of what we're seeing right now, especially politically, with people doing a lot of, well, this is what's right and proper, and it's really just scary language to control people. He's so good at that, putting up that front of you know, respectability, and he is proper and traditional in these ways that are good and right because they are traditional. And he's just he's a lot of things. He is a
lot of things. He is fantastic, though, and I think honestly all of those things are things that make him truly one of the best villains, not just of the Buffy, you know, run, but like one of the best villains I think I've ever seen on TV. It's so good. It's so complex. He's so interesting. He's compelling. You know, all of it I think is really, really great. So I've enjoyed Mayor Wilkins tremendously throughout this season. It's one of my favorite villains. Another thing that I really enjoyed was Anya, as brief as she is. You know, she comes in, she gives all the information. I love Willow's "How come evil girl's in the mix?" You know, Willow does not like Anya, and we don't resolve that until Triangle in season 5. Like, it is crazy how long it takes takes to actually resolve that tension between Willow and Anya. I love, and this is the Anya, God, when they get Anya together with Xander, it ruins Anya. But this Anya that like, I'm getting the hell out of town, come with me. Are we going to kiss? Like,
yes.
I love this whole thing. I love when Xander says, welcome to the world of romance. And she goes, it's horrible. No wonder I used to get so much work. You know?
Oh, Anya.
But she's got her own brain, and she's got an intelligence, and she knows what's going on, and she's got capability, and all of this stuff that I love in Anya, and that once she gets together with Xander, we strip her of. You know, where she's just the comedy mule most of the time. Yeah. You know?
Or the butt
I like
of the
money.
joke.
I'm strangely literal. You know?
Yeah.
But this is good Anya.
I love this Anya. I love Anya who has seen some shit. She knows what's up with the Ascension. She knows how demons work. I love her telling them that they've never seen a demon.
You've never seen a demon, yeah.
Buffy is so miffed. Excuse me.
I know.
And I love that concluding line, you know, about what makes, you know, pure demons different. Well, they're bigger.
Right.
Just great. Wonderful. That's good.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, it's very, very fun. We have a few lines in here though that kind of bug me. Like there's this moment with Xander talking to Anya in the classroom, right? Where Anya's like, well, men like sports. We can watch sports. And he's like, yes, men like sports and love to eat of the beef and stare at the bosoms. And I'm like, okay, that is literally the argument you make every day, Xander, when it suits you. So kindly fuck off. He gets so upset about this stereotyping of men. And I'm like, are you kidding me?
Right. Yeah. When he will use that same stereotype to explain away his own deplorable behavior.
Oh, exactly. He is boys will be boys 100%. Like this is what Xander does, you know? So when he gets offended by this from Anya, I'm like, oh God, just shut up. And then we have, you know, these moments where Buffy says to Wesley, if I need someone to scream like a woman, I'll give you a call. And I'm like, oh God. And then later on, she's saying, good, start bickering. You guys are like little old ladies. And all of this is, you know, I'm like, oh God, Buffy. But then it's Joss. Joss Whedon wrote it. These are this kind of thing where we associate femininity with weakness, with being annoying, with being difficult, with just being wrong. We associate bad things with women all the time in our culture. So when people are like, I don't know, I'm not sure that our culture is misogynistic. Jesus Christ, it's in the text. It's in the goddamn text.
It's what it says on the tin, you guys.
Like, exactly. Really.
Yeah.
This kind of thing. Throw like a girl, scream like a girl, scream like a woman, run like a woman, right? Whenever we want to insult somebody, we call them a woman.
Yeah.
Or, you know, a pussy, right? I mean, come on.
Yeah.
I don't know if society is misogynistic. Oh my God. So anyway, here we have that terroir, right? What's in society gets in the ground, gets in the grapes, gets in the wine. And then here we have this. And I'm just like, ugh. And when I see it, it just annoys me so much.
But also, like, if you hate women so much, maybe don't make a show that is about young women. I don't know. I'm just going to put that out there.
First of all, like whether or not Joss Whedon specifically is a misogynist deliberately and with malice aforethought, like that's a whole, like that is not a discussion that we have either the right or the willingness to have, right? That's not it. The fact is that our society is misogynistic. These are things that come up through our culture and then reflect us back at ourselves, right? So this is an opportunity for us to look at that terroir, to look at that reflection and say, yeah, that's some bullshit, right? So I'm not saying that Joss Whedon hates women, right? I am not saying. Okay,
that's fine.
You can say whatever you want.
No.
I don't feel that I have the right to
I'm
say
inflammatory.
That.
It's what I do
here.
It's
okay. But I don't think that he is any more misogynistic than our whole culture. I think that the claim of Buffy being such a feminist text can be refuted quite a bit with some of this kind of stuff, some of these things that we see. But that again it's part of the culture. You know, everybody who's raised in our culture has misogynistic leanings because that's the way the culture has formed us, you know, and it takes actual effort and consciousness in order to battle that, you know. And if you haven't gotten that, I've said stuff like this. I've gone through my books.
Oh, yeah.
This shit is in my books. I've read
same
it.
here.
You know?
I mean,
I've written it. Yeah.
Yeah. Internalized misogyny is definitely a thing.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And, you know, really, I am just being... I'm being cheeky and addressing, you know, not just the writers of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, but writers in general. You know, I will see things often that I think, like, you clearly just don't like a particular group of people. Why even try to feature them in your work? And not, you know, I don't know. I don't know.
See, I wouldn't say that the creators of this show don't like women. I would say that the creators of this show are in a society that hates women, are part of a society that hates women. And that gets into the work. And I mean, like, you know, honestly, as a writer, I just read a book of mine where there were a couple of lines in it. It wasn't misogyny, it was homophobia. But I was like, no, all right, now I know better. But at the time, it was the way in which we joked around, right? So as I'm reading this book of mine, in which I feature a transgender character, like with respect and love and, you know, all that kind of, like, I still had that in there. You know, it wasn't conscious, it wasn't deliberate, but it's part of the culture. So, like, I think that for me, especially because I know I have personal experience with writing this shit, writing stuff that, looking at it now, 2019, Lani would be like, oh, Jesus, 2004, Lani, get your shit together, you know?
Yeah.
So, like, I have sympathy for that. And I don't think it necessarily means that people are misogynistic or that they're bad, but I think it means that, like, we have this stuff in our culture. And looking at it, being conscious of it, and calling it out is really important. At the same time, while I call it out, I do not want to condemn the people that wrote it because... you know, I mean, I got to condemn myself too. And I do a little bit. When I read it, I'm like, Jesus, past Lani. What the hell? Right? What the literal fuck, you know? But you learn and you grow. And then, you know, it's something that you can avoid in the future and be conscious of. So, I mean, that's it. Like, I'm not taking shots at anybody who wrote it. You know, Joss Whedon is a complicated figure with regards to feminism in general. That is a whole other discussion that can be had somewhere on somebody else's podcast. I'm not interested in talking personally about the people who write this stuff. But it is something that it is important that we look at. And it's important to me to be able to look at this stuff because as I start picking up writing again, I want to make sure that that my writing, and there's also a difference too between reflecting and looking honestly at things in society, consciously knowing it and putting it in your text so that you can talk about it, and simply having it in your text as a presumed truth.
Yeah.
That screaming like a woman is bad, that running like a woman is bad.
Yeah.
You know, throwing like a girl, that kind of thing. So there's a difference between having it in your story consciously and you're addressing it, and having it put in there based on this societal presumption that women are bad.
Yeah. Yeah. So. And I'm not actually holding, you know, a 20-year-old TV series to the standards of, like, basically, like, like I would guess, I would be willing to wager that probably, I don't know, like 95% of the shit that I complain about with respect to Buffy would not be made today. Like, those decisions wouldn't happen because
we have a greater consciousness societally.
And like 20 years have passed. Like we have made not, you know, enough progress, but we've made some progress. No progress. So, you know, we have graduated, as it were. Yes. Some of us more so than others. Yes, which is why a lot of it feels. This is something that is fascinating to me and continues to fascinate me as we talk about Buffy, when things still feel very relevant versus when, you know, we look at something and go, oh, well, that wouldn't be written that way today, or it wouldn't be shot that way today. Or maybe it would be in the show, but it would be commented on in this other way that we weren't doing in 1999. We were just, boys will be boys. Woo! Whatever. So, it's all fascinating to think about, and it isn't fair to criticize something that was made then for not being made now.
Right.
And I'm going to be salty about certain things because this is who I am.
That's okay, baby. You bring your salt. I love your salt. It's totally fine. All right. So, Noelle, what are you wearing?
Oh, my goodness gracious. So we talked about the pink dress and how it completely does not suit Faith at all. And is it the mayor trying to bring out something in her that is authentic to her that she doesn't want to acknowledge? Or is it him putting his patriarchal bullshit on her? Right. I'm going to say yes, and it is both. It is all of those things. It is wonderfully flimsy and ill-fitting on Eliza Dushku. Like, it was clearly chosen so deliberately.
And her black bra, you can see through it. And I think that that's a wonderful detail because it's not the see-through in the way that's a deliberate see the black bra through, which Faith has done before and rocked. It's the very subtle, that's a dark bra under there. Like it doesn't look good.
She doesn't have the quote unquote right undergarments for this dress. Like nothing about this is right for her. But Faith does wear something that feels very, very right to her. In this episode, and that is her white tank top with the Immaculate Heart of Mary on it. Did that stand out to you at all? Because
no, it didn't. But I miss the symbols. You always get the symbols, which is why you're so perfect for this. But I always miss the symbols. Yeah.
So that jumped out to me immediately, and I lost my mind. So Faith is wearing this white tank top with a black print of, I think it's the Immaculate Heart of Mary on it, which represents the Virgin Mary as the mother of sorrows.
Yeah.
The grieving mother regarded as a symbol of deep compassion for humanity. And of course, this is the tank top that Faith is going to wear when Buffy stabs her in the gut. Yeah. And there's something so beautiful and, counterpoint about this whole thing with Faith where she puts up this hard exterior and she chooses to engage with the dark and with the evil and the violence, but it's not because she doesn't feel, it's because she feels everything so deeply and it's so dangerous to be that vulnerable. And I love this as a symbol of Faith as somebody who is in a tremendous amount of pain, because the heart is almost invariably pictured on fire. It's on fire, usually ringed with roses or lilies, which symbolize heavenly joy and purity, respectfully. But there's a sword piercing the heart, which illustrates a verse from the Gospel of Luke that says, "And a sword will go through your heart so that the secret thoughts of men may come to light." And I'm just like, connecting Faith to secret grief and suffering, it just highlights her whole unspoken backstory, but that we get subtextually throughout season 3. And it's just, I lost my shit. I love symbology just in general, but that I was like, that was chosen deliberately as a bit of characterization, and I bow down to
I love it.
The costume department. I've had a couple of requests to talk about Faith's hair.
Okay.
And the way that it changes over the course of season 3. When she's introduced, when she shows up, she's got this big, like, wavy, sexy, Victoria's Secret kind of hair going.
Yeah.
And by the end of season 3, her hair is super straight. Yeah. It's like limp and flat in this very, it's still very fashionable. She still looks very put together, but there's none of that like billowy, bouncy,
there's no
sexy fun. Yeah. There's no fun. It's all business. It's all straight and to the point. And that's just my really, really quick read on it folks in Discord have some fantastic thoughts on hair and makeup and clothing. And if you're not a patron, I mean, seriously, just for the still pretty discussion of like what people are wearing and why and like the history of it. And apparently all of these things that I never know the name of. I'm like, that probably has a name. Someone in Discord knows that name.
Someone in there knows it. Yes.
Yeah. So, patreon.com/chipperish. And then you can tell me the names of all of the things that I completely missed. You can tell me that it's actually the Sacred Heart of Jesus, perhaps, and not the Immaculate Heart of Mary. But
who
whatever.
knows? Yeah.
Who knows? Could be anything. So it's actually the maroon caps and gowns get called out textually as being interesting. Cordelia, of course, Cordelia lobbied for the teal.
Yes.
Lobbied hard for the teal. But maroon, the color maroon is associated with power, risk, passion, courage, and strength, among other things. I'm like, if you're going to war with the graduating class of 1999, we can use some like passion, courage, and strength. That would help. Also, it hides the blood really nicely.
Right. No, it does. It definitely does.
You think you're going to die in something. Whereas, teal is the color of restfulness and mental and spiritual balance. Which not as good.
Not quite, yeah.
No, not quite as good. But, and, of course, graduation gowns are great for hiding all of your demon
those
fighting weaponry. I do wish the kids had looked a little bulgier when they all stand up. Nobody's got any. Nobody actually has anything under their gowns. Like, it's very Looney Tunes. It's like flamethrowers, and it was like, where was that this whole time?
Where was that the whole time?
But you know what? Do you want to hear the story or not? Yes, I do. Thank you. I accept that somehow Larry was able to hide an entire flamethrower under his mortarboard. It's fine.
Right. It's always not about how it actually is. It's about how it feels. Yep. So that's how it felt.
Well, and
like
that's
the
how
reality
we know
of what it would be.
Yeah, and that's how we know we're in fantasy space and not science fiction space, is my understanding of it. Science fiction would say, well, they used the such and so device to shrink the weapons so that they were pocket sized, and then no. It's about the class of 99 is going to graduate by destroying the literal patriarchy snake of
the patriarchy snake.
The patriarchy snake. I mean,
I love it.
The snake is a pretty whatever.
I love like Wes in his purple striped shirt with the suspenders.
Oh my god.
It's just so goddamn adorable.
When he's fencing and he's all like so proper.
It's so cute. Yeah, so as far as like outfits for me, it was like Wesley and it was Sweater Giles. Like those are the things that I just had to, I love it. And I don't have greater sense of meaning from any of it. I'm just saying I think it's adorable. My weakness for British men is not good. It's not good. As we've established.
We've addressed this. Yeah. I have some concerns, but we'll discuss those privately.
It's okay. He's in the corner. He's still playing with the iPad. It's fine. All right. So Noelle, what's your favorite part?
Oh my God. Okay. So for heart feelings, it's definitely the entire graduating class revealing their weapons. Buffy shouts now, and suddenly 100 people all in unison. You can always get me with large groups of people doing things in unison. I think it's my dance training. I find it extremely
you love flash mobs
moving.
then, huh?
Oh yes. Oh my God. Oh my God. When that was a thing. Jesus. I loved me a flash mob. Yeah. There is something very, very moving about a group of people, all
working together
in
concert.
Yeah. It's gorgeous. But for pants feelings, my favorite part is Angel drinking Buffy. Oh God.
Okay.
Whew.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
I mean, I have deplorable taste in some ways as well. Like, it's not just about you and your British men. There's also me and my vampires. Like, we've established, we know how I feel about Darla and what I want her to do to me. So,
Oh yeah. Yeah. You know what? Love what you love, right? Just accept it. That's just, it may reflect on you in some ways that kind of are alarming, but whatever.
I'm fine with that.
Right.
So what is your favorite part?
Oh God. Giles stabbing the mayor through the heart. That sudden moment of just fury and passion, and he just stabs him, and knowing that it's not going to do anything, knowing that the mayor is invulnerable, knowing that it changes nothing, it saves no one, but he does it anyway because he's a goddamn dad. I love that. The mayor's love for Faith is what takes him down. Like, there's something about those proof of love stories that have always hit me just exactly, in the heart, because there's things that people say they love, people claim it, but they don't necessarily do things that prove it, when it comes right down to it. So when somebody does something that does not benefit them, just out of pure love, like that to me is just such a beautiful expression of love that is real and that you can believe in, So I love proof of love moments are always going to be my favorite. And so Giles, stabbing the mayor, I just love it.
All right, that's it for today. To join in the discussion on Twitter, follow Lani at LaniDianeRich and me at Noelle Aloud, and use the hashtag StillPretty.
Or you can keep Chipperish Media going to the tune of $1 a month or more and gain access to the live chat in Discord, where you can hang out with me and Noelle and all the Chipperish patrons who always knock during dark rituals.
You can also show your support by giving Still Pretty a fantastic review on Apple Podcasts, or by telling your friends about the show, or by drinking coffee because tea is soothing and you wish to be tense.
We'll be back next time with The Freshman, the first episode of season 4. Until then, man, just ascend already.